1992 was the year Alone in the Dark made a name for itself in the survival horror genre. This remake promised to share the same bravado as Capcom's modern Resident Evil titles. It's a brilliant story about the horrors of the mind. It hit the mark thanks to its psychological terrors and the wonderful performances. David Harbour and Jodie Comer did their jobs well.
You'll have to run!
But this sparked another conversation about remakes. This version of Alone in the Dark was marred by clunky controls and combat. The foreboding atmosphere was there, but dealing with enemies felt frustrating. Was it better than the original, or was it an unnecessary reimagining of a horror classic? The PS5 release of New World Interactive's military shooter, Insurgency Sandstorm, enjoyed its time on Steam back in 2018. It was met with positive acclaim, with players praising its realistic portrayal of war, where every bullet in its team-based matches counted. It was one of the best military shooters out there. It's a great alternative to other shooters in the market, but do you think it's worth playing compared to more popular shooters like Call of Duty? The PlayStation 5 version doesn't have as many players yet. Crossplay is in the works, but players can still find matches in quick play and ranked. A reimagining of the classic run-and-gun action game from the 80s, Contra was a household name to some gamers who grew up with it. It was this testosterone-powered platformer that birthed a generation of gun-toting gamers who loved blowing stuff up. Operation Galuga's modern revisions include new stages, enemies, mechanics, and co-op for up to 4 players. These healthy additions make this remaster worth a try for anyone missing out on Contra's classic shooting. But the kicker is that it's a $40 game. Let's just say some players weren't happy with the price, saying that it couldn't be more than a $15 to $20 title. Some even called out the lack of an online multiplayer. Sure, the nostalgia factor will obviously have some people obsessed, but in this economy, should a remaster of a 4-decade-old game cost this much? Team Ninja's latest foray into the samurai genre, Rise of Ronin, focuses on Japan's pivotal Bakumatsu period. The slow end to the shogunate, it's an interesting setting, giving players a fresher perspective on Japan's history. As for its gameplay, it went for the familiar Souls-like approach. You could parry attacks and perform powerful combos. What sets it apart from older entries is the open-world approach. Players can traverse Japan's 3 major cities. But is it a victim of its own ambitions? Unfortunately, no matter how gorgeous its visuals are, exploring is a lifeless journey. It suffers from that dated open-world structure where there's not really much to do. Rise of Ronin is a great game, but whatever its successes were, it was despite its sparse world. Capcom's latest AAA adventure, Dragon's Dogma 2, was met with almost universal acclaim. Offering little to no hand-holding, some critics even called it the next Elden Ring. Its open world is vast and full of rich details. The fantasy setting is gorgeous and soaked in the lure of adventure. Combat is flashy, and the vocations are so much like in Monster Hunter. Even the classic pawn system is improved with AI. Dragon's Dogma 2 was almost what Capcom wanted it to be. It really was, except for a few issues. It was another victim of bad optimization. On release, it had jarring performance issues. Frame rates could fluctuate from 30s to 40s at any given moment. With the uncapped frame rates on the PS5, it was an inconsistent mess. On PC, even the latest GPUs couldn't handle its scale. The list of questionable decisions went on, and it led to another discourse: microtransactions. Items like fast travel stones had to be purchased separately, although they don't really matter since you can get them in-game. But what irks us is its existence at all. In a single-player title, was it really necessary? The original creators of Life is Strange dabble in supernatural action RPG. Banishers, a completely new IP from Don't veers away from its traditional linear storytelling. It tells a compelling story about love and loss, brought to life by a well-written cast of characters with solid performances. The branching narrative asks the big questions and hurls you into a moral dilemma. Combat is great too. It matches the narrative with spectral abilities that can turn you into a badass ghost hunter. The catch is, it's lackluster open world. Once the allure of its premise wears off, there's really not much to do. Aside from that, it's also marred by performance issues. In select areas, the frame rates can drop to 30 even in performance mode. Despite that, Banishers is still an ambitious feat from Don't. It's a major upgrade from its formula, but with so many games in the market, it's easy for games like these to fly under the radar. Outlast is evolving its horror storytelling in new ways. Far from the usual single-player style, Outlast Trials is a full-blown multiplayer game. An AI-controlled stalker roams the level, forcing you and 3 others into a terrifying game of hide-and-seek. It successfully captures the fear and claustrophobia of the previous games, only this time, other people are joining in on the horror. it's best played with friends. Fans of the series will find something to enjoy here, but anyone who's waiting for the next single-player Outlast game might have to wait longer. This is a game built for the long run with an ongoing live service model. The good news is that there aren't any egregious microtransactions so far. What do you guys think? Was this a great step for Outlast moving forward? Comment below and we'll talk about it. Helldivers 2 has been the talk of the town for the past few weeks. It checks out every box on the consumer-friendly video game list, it costs $40, the battle pass can be obtained in-game, and most importantly, it is fun. There's nothing more satisfying than spreading liberty across the galaxy. By liberty, we mean shooting alien bugs and robots until they're completely eradicated. Fighting to hell and back with 3 other players is Helldivers 2 at its best, whether it's dropping 500-kilogram nukes or raining bullets on unsuspecting terminids. The ensuing hilarity of blowing up bugs in the name of democracy makes Helldivers 2 a fun game to play with friends.
Welcome to WrestleMania!
This year's WrestleMania set its sights on Cody Rhodes. The son of a plumber and late professional wrestling legend Dusty Rhodes is WWE 2K24's cover athlete. This is the latest entry into 2K's annual wrestling celebration. 2K24 aims to be their biggest game yet, boasting over 200 superstars and a staggering amount of content. It's a comprehensive package that has something for everybody, WWE fan or not. The enhanced gameplay adds more immersion to the ring, and you can experiment with new match types and improve My GM modes. If you want to express your love for the franchise, you can do it with its many customization options. There are a few noticeable bugs here and there, but the performance issues that plague the PC version aren't as noticeable on the PS5. The new Prince of Persia isn't what anyone expected. The Lost Crown shifts from the full 3D of classic Prince of Persia to a 2.5D perspective, looking and playing similarly to Hollow Knight and Metroid. The refined parkour-based movement comes with more intuitive controls. Now you can really feel like a cool warrior as you zip across levels. It looks like the change in style is working, with high scores across all platforms. Some critics compare its success to Sands of Time, which brought the series into 3D. Nearly every part of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown works so well that it feels as if the series has found its new genre home. The Lost Crown is a fully single-player experience with 0 microtransactions. Quite the achievement, knowing Ubisoft is no stranger to shady practices.
Ready for the next battle.
New-gen Tekken is bringing fighting games to a new level. Tekken 8 expands the tight fighting mechanics with a new heat system. The footsies and 50-50s are one thing, but with heat, you get aggressive plays that can shift the advantage at any point of the match. The iconic roster also got a fresh redesign, and they all look amazing thanks to the Unreal Engine 5. New characters like Victor and Reina are some of the standouts in the default cast. Tekken 8 Season DLCs bring more features, balance updates, and characters. Eddie Gordo, the Season 1 DLC character, brought a mean presence to the arena. One of the most controversial additions in Tekken 8 is the Shop, an in-game store where you can buy cosmetics with real money. Although the cosmetics are purely aesthetic, it's seriously a doozy if you wanted to earn it the usual way. Vanillaware always exceeds expectations. Their latest IP, Unicorn Overlord, is no different. Its answer to tactical JRPGs, Unicorn Overlord manages to hit every mark at its 40 hours of playtime. The visuals alone feels like Vanillaware at its peak. While the real-time strategy doesn't reinvent the wheel, its new mechanics do give it an added layer of complexity. It also has an interesting story, peeling apart the usual fantasy tropes. It still feels like Vanillaware's usual quirky anime style, but it's balanced out by an engaging story and satisfying gameplay. It's a love letter to the classic RPGs with a play score of 9.3.
To victory!
The time is right!
Let 'em have it, fellas!
Speaking of RPGs, Atlas' remake of one of PlayStation 2's best titles finally graced the modern generation. Persona 3 Reload is a testament to the timelessness of the original. It has a lot of quality of life changes, especially in its visuals and gameplay, but it preserves everything else from the 2006 classic. The story, its characters, and its bittersweet ending are all the same. Reload shines with its fully voice-acted narrative. What was once a straight-up PS2 visual novel feels so much more modern. The voice actors bring new life and personality to the characters we love. All that, plus the remastered soundtrack and fresh tunes, make this the best way to play Persona 3 today. The anticipated FES expansion is coming this September. It adds a dramatic epilogue to our favorite characters. Thanks to RGG, the Yakuza games are almost synonymous with over-the-top shenanigans. Infinite Wealth has even more up its sleeve. Its open-world Hawaii is a haven of crazy antics, and despite all the absurdity, this is one of Asogi and Kirya's most unforgettable adventures yet. It has everything a modern RPG needs: excellent turn-based combat, a lovable cast, and a post-game that's full to the brim with activities. It's a full-course meal with tons of side dishes. If there's one problem you might have, it's that you might not have to enjoy everything it offers.
Fill your hollow heart with rage.
The best PlayStation 5 game so far is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second chapter to Cloud & Friends remake trilogy. With a play score of 9.4, critics and gamers have called it the best version of Final Fantasy VII so far. And part of its success is the remake's fleshed-out narrative, stretched into 3 parts. The developers clearly poured their heart into the characters and story. We could identify each character's motivations, and their emotional arcs made us feel so much for them. It's a roller coaster of a narrative that can go from environmental drama to Tifa doing sit-ups. Rebirth made a lot of improvements on its combat. With synergy abilities, there are new ways to beat Sephiroth's ass. It's also massive. The shift to open world opened the floodgates of activities for Cloud & Friends. But if you just want to enjoy the story, the amount of content can get overwhelming. Sometimes the minigames can even be a little too much. It can even break the game's careful pacing. Would you agree?